Hello everyone. Today we will be talking about invoices. Now what we plan to cover in today's session includes the following. So we'll understand what is an invoice, the importance of sales invoice versus bill, elements of an invoice, and the various types of invoices. So let's start with understanding what is an invoice. Now by definition, a sales invoice is an accounting document that serves as a record of sales and inform the client about the amount of money that they owe to your business for the products or services that you have provided to them. Right? Now it basically serves as a proof of debt and establishes an obligation on the part of the customer to pay your business back. It is also a legal document. So the invoice can be provided as a legal document as proof of the fact that services or products were offered by your company or your organization to the customer. Now, sales invoices are issued every time you want to request payment, right when the product or the service gets delivered. Let's move on. Now, what is the importance of a sales invoice? Now, firstly and most importantly, it helps in accurate bookkeeping. Now, a sales invoice is recorded as a journal entry on the company books, so the businesses can monitor the cash flow and create the financial statements that are required at the end of the year. Secondly, it serves as a legal proof of an agreement. Now, to avoid any legal issues or petty lawsuits, a sales invoice serves the purpose of a legal transaction that has taken place between two parties. The third usage, very important, is for filing taxes. Now, invoices are created so that at the end of the month or the quarter or the end of the year, appropriate tax return forms can be filed by the organization. The next, again very important, is inventory tracking. Now, if your business sells physical products, let's say you are into trading, sales invoices help you keep track of how much inventory you have and how much you're selling. You can use this information to forecast the number of inventory that you need to keep, or you can keep analytics of various parameters like which brand is selling the most, which category is selling the most. So invoices help you reach to these analytical statements. Next, let's try to understand the differences between sales invoices and bills. Now these terms are used interchangeably. Now it is important to understand that invoices are issued to customers. So invoice is basically a medium of collecting cash for the product or services that the business has provided. Whereas the bill is used by the buyer to express how much money they owe a vendor or how much money do they need to pay to the vendor. Next, let's try to understand the important elements of an invoice. The first and the most important is the term invoice. Now this needs to be included to categorize the kind of invoice that you are sending to the customer. So this can be either a tax invoice or a sales invoice, depending on the compliance. Then we need the business contact details, right? Now business details includes the business name, or you can call it the registered name, the email ID, the billing address. Again, this has to be the registered address. Plus you can also add the business logo. There are other important elements also that can be the tax registration number or company registration number or any other statutory detail that is required to be printed. Next is customer contact details. So you require the same set of details for the customers like the customer name, their address, the email, the phone number, their tax registration number. Right? So depending on the statutory compliance, you will need to enter or furnish the registration details for the customer as well. Then we need to have the due date and the billing date. So it is important that when was the invoice generated and when is it due. Invoice number is a unique sequential code that is used to differentiate between the multiple invoices that are being generated. Again, this invoice number is very, very critical in terms of generating financial reports and the statutory reports. The next thing that is important is an itemized list of products and services, right? Now we need to specify uniquely what is the exact product and their respective codes. Now every compliance may want you to identify each product or service that you're selling with a unique code. So you may need to mention that along with their respective unit price, the total amount owed, and the tax rates. So These three are very, very important along with the products and services. And finally, the payment term. That is, when is an invoice due and what were the exact payment terms. Let's understand the type of invoices. First is the standard invoices. Now, these are as mandated by the statutory rules. So this can be just a tax invoice or a bill of supply, or you can call it a sales invoice. So these are standard invoices that are issued. Next is the pro forma invoice. Now, pro forma invoice is not actually a financial document. It is issued before goods and services have been delivered or finished. The goal of this isn't to request payment, but rather let the customer know how much they will have to pay once everything is done. So it basically informs the customer about the details of every single service or product that you're gonna offer to the customer. What is the quantity, what is the unit price, what is the tax, and what is the total amount. So this is basically an information before the actual sales actually happens. Next is the recurring invoices. Now, sales invoices with the same details that are repeated at regular periods of time are known as recurring invoices. These include transactions as membership, subscription, or any other recurring activity that takes place between you and your customers. Now let's understand how can Deskera help us with all these. Now Deskera supports all types of invoices. You can create pro forma invoices, you can create quotations, you can create tax invoices. Secondly, we have the option wherein you can create multiple invoice templates. Now when we discuss the various elements that are needed for an invoice, all of them are covered. Plus, in addition to that, if you want to add any other details with the invoice template, you can design them. Plus, you can design multiple such templates. So you may need to design a specific template for export, and you may need to have a specific template when selling within the same country. Then we have multiple invoice sequences. So the invoice number, which is a very, very crucial aspect because it is what recognizes an invoice uniquely from the other invoice. Plus it is also used in tax returns. So you can have multiple invoice sequences as per your requirement. Automated tax calculation, very, very important because it eases the burden of calculating or doing things manually. So depending on the rule of the land, you can automate the taxes that need to be calculated depending on the customer that is selected, the place where you are billing, the tax rate of the product or the service that is being included. Lastly, it is very easy to share. You can generate invoices quickly, you can email them directly, you can share them using the mobile app either over WhatsApp or any other application. So this way, Deskera makes the task of invoicing very easy for the end customer.